DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Good evening to tonight's episode, the pre-show of Cooking with Ben.
That's next. Oh, yeah.
This would be the
pre-show.
This is the pre-show. Tonight, we're taking your special recipes and we're going to make them next week on our Tuesday night show. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so awesome.
Hopefully, they're simple recipes.
Yes.
I think so far, for sure, the one recipe I've secured is my mom's sugar cookie recipe. Or cutout cookie recipe. So we'll do that one. I don't know how adventurous we'll get. I think just making those will be adventurous in and of itself.
So for those of you who aren't understanding what we're talking about, is next week's Tuesday night show is actually, we're going to be recording this a little early because we're going to be on Monday getting together and going to a kitchen and bringing our culinary skills to this kitchen.
What could possibly go wrong?
Now, to make sure that this goes properly, we are going to be recruiting Ben's children to come in and make sure that we are doing it properly.
I say again, what could possibly go wrong?
Because you know that Ben's daughter has come on past shows and told us what an incredible help he is in the kitchen. The way he can just take over and make things so incredibly delicious that people, tears in the eyes.
In case you missed it, that's not what she said.
That was so funny, though.
She just.
So here's the bus, and here's Ben. Whoosh! Under the bus, she did.
No words. It was like one of those souped-up rocket-propelled buses they use in monster truck shows, and she just hit me with it.
Oh,
you know,
it's gonna be so much fun.
So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us.
That's next week. So tonight we got some tech topics, so at least I can live in my comfort zone for one more week.
One more week. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us. We got some on Facebook and some out on YouTube. If you've got questions you want us to cover, put those in the chats. We've got some questions here we're going to be working with, and we'll jump into some of the questions that you have and just kind of bounce around here for the next about 45 minutes. So I think I actually saw one at that. Okay, I want to get that one secondly. Okay. How do I get these raccoons out of my trees? Wait a second. We might be able to do this one, but we'll do it later. I think we could actually have some creative ways of getting rid of raccoons. I don't think
PETA's going to like my answer.
Probably not, but boy, there's a thing. Oh yeah, we do have some good questions coming in. Well, let's get to a couple here. We'll let a few more get built up, and then we'll get back to those. So tonight's questions are questions we were finding that some DJs who they've been on some of the different Facebook groups and such. They're kind of questions that come up over and over again. So we're going to tackle a few of those questions. So if your question was very similar to this and it was posted on a chat board, it's probably because it was this question, and we took it and kind of tweaked it a little bit to save, to protect the innocent. And here we are. All right.
Why protect the guilty? That's what I say.
Exactly.
Why protect the guilty?
All right. Good. So let's talk about wireless lighting. People have been asking about that, and I've been hearing that's been a big one, especially because of Stowe coming out with the Bluetooth technology. Eternal has been doing some things with wireless lighting and such. So where does the wireless lighting for a wedding DJ, because that's a lot of our viewers are wedding DJs or doing high school dances, where is that at right now for reliability and the best practices in using it in our shows?
Well, I think when we talk about wireless lighting, there's a couple different ways we can make things wireless. And, it could be as simple as an infrared remote control. And we see IR remotes, they've been around for a long time. The problem with those is you have a limited range and you're going to control a limited number of fixtures at a time. And then, of course, we have the venerable and long-standing DMX standard, which, is still the, number one most universal way to control lighting. We talked about wireless DMX in a previous show where while DMX is a standard, wireless DMX is not. And there are a lot of different protocols you can use, some good, some not so good, some great, but you mentioned the Bluetooth, and that's kind of where I want to go with this tonight. So here's one of these Chauvet SlimPar T12 BTs. The thing is, it's crazy bright, certainly does the job. And we see all the features we're kind of used to seeing on a light where we've got, power in and power out, fan cooling, that sort of thing. Our menu, our DMX in and out. Let's get the lighting there. There we go, DMX in and out. But this light also has Bluetooth built in. So, within 100 feet or so, we can now control these wirelessly from a tablet or our phone or something like that. And we can group them and actually pretty reliable wireless control of these without doing DMX or infrared. It's a lot simpler, I think. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It certainly is more limited than something like a DMX software program with wireless DMX, but it's also a lot less expensive and it's very simple. The person really can just operate this by clicking on colors and clicking on lights. It's very user friendly, good for somebody who really doesn't want to take on more, things that require brain power to gig, or maybe you want to rent these out or have a junior assistant helping you run lights or something like that.
Right.
So I think that's a potentially really viable solution.
Yeah, I definitely have been playing with those with same light fixtures, and I'm excited of where that technology is going to be going. I'm hoping at NAMM that we see more companies starting to embrace some of that because of the ease and simplicity of what Chauvet has brought to the market. Just as it becomes more commonplace, it's just going to be better, I think, for the end user, and I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know how much cross compatibility we'll see. I think we'll kind of wait and see where that goes. But I know that there's some more things coming. Of course, good news too is we're stocked up pretty good on the T12 right now, so you can still get those at the current pricing, so that they won't be affected by tariffs or anything for a little while, as long as we have that current stock. So, is
that the tri or the quad?
We've got both in stock.
Excellent.
We're stocked really deeply on the tri because you can make just about every color you would probably use in a simple situation. And beyond that, if you want to get into something more robust, then it's probably time to move into like a hex, Freedom Par or the Eternal Cube Echo or something like that. So we kind of feel like the tri hits that really inexpensive and yet robust and feature friendly price point.
And that was kind of my finding too, because I've got both the quad and the tri here that Chauvet wanted me to do some testing on. Mm-hmm. And it really beyond, that one moment where you have the amber all the way up, I can almost match it identically. I mean, I was having Michael out, and it's like, okay, can you tell which one of these is true amber and which one is not? And he goes, when I look up there, no. When I look down here, I can see a little bit. But
yeah, if you're looking right at the light and you can see what diodes are lit, someone who's experienced with that can certainly identify it. Looking at the projected light, no, not really. So anyway, that's why we went with we're stocked deeper on the tris, because again, we think it's a price point thing, and there is a very attractive price point, which obviously I'm not allowed to say, but you can message one of our folks later, find that out. How the drill.
Yep.
If you're new viewers, we try not to make this show an advertisement. So if you want to buy something, just message me later. For now, we're just trying to teach you something. So
okay, we've got a lot of questions. I think we're up to 7 questions from the chat.
Holy mazzoli.
We're going to just jump into those. Some of these are going to be quick ones, and some of them. First off, somebody was looking for a wireless microphone system that was under $700. What are some that you would recommend them looking into that's going to be somewhere in that price range? I think if we mentioned a few models or what have you.
Well, gosh, a couple great models come to mind, and it depends on what you want to do. It depends on if you want a handheld, a ear set, a lav, that sort of thing. But let's just pick an easy one to make this a quick answer and go with a handheld. Well under that, you can get the Sennheiser Evolution 100 G4 series, or the new fourth generation Audio-Technica 3000 series. I've done a YouTube video on both of those. You can kind of check out. There are some other options in that kind of mid-range price point too, but these things can be had in the 500s. Again, some great pricing available. Just message me privately. And something else, and I'm sorry, I just kind of throw this in real quick, but choosing frequency bands, especially when TV stations are moving around and you go and you look and what you see is what's there now, but not what's going to be there when the spectrum repack occurs. I know that's really frustrating and confusing for people. Believe me, I get lots of messages a day from people who are struggling with that. And so sort of in a self-serving way, I do the research for you, and I look and I see what frequency band we should choose for your area before we sell it to you. And of course, that's a customer service thing, but it's also kind of self-serving, because if we sell you something you have a lot of problems with, you're going to call us a lot with those problems. And so if we can just avoid the problems before they happen, it's better for both of us.
Certainly it is.
So that's something we do as, it's no additional cost. You still get the discount on the microphone, and we'll do that for you as well. So, but those are two models I'd look at. That they're certainly not the only two. Audix has their 60 series and their 40 series well under that price point. There's a lot of good choices out there. I think this is probably the next golden age of wireless, because now that things have sort of settled down and we know where the spectrum is going to be at, the wireless manufacturers are free to spend those R&D monies and release new products.
Yeah, I think that definitely is something I've heard on the other side from manufacturers as coming up. So, Robin, thank you for sharing the link. She put the NLFX Pro link in the chat there,
awesome.
So you guys have got that.
Robin's great. I love Robin.
Yeah, Robin does a wonderful job. For those of you, I don't know if you guys can see it, but Robin and Howie and a few others have their name is in blue and there's a little wrench by their name. I think you guys can see that. That's because they are a huge help when it comes to the chats and such, and sharing links and keeping things flowing. So thank you, Robin and Howie, and there's others that you'll see with that have that, but they've been such a wonderful.
Can we get Robin and Howie and company to come help with the cookies next week? Because I have a feeling I'm going to need all the friends I could get.
Yeah,
so
probably would be much better cookies.
But, no question, no doubt. The good news is viewers won't have any way to taste these. So.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I was wondering if we shouldn't have a to-go box ready to go, and we should basically do like some sort of a little raffle or drawing or something. Yeah.
I'm down.
We'll have to think more about this.
So I don't want to take up our time today, but I told you a little bit about what we're doing here. I had our local high school mechatronics course, STEM, one of the engineering courses. They've 3D printed some custom Star Wars cookie cutters for me. These are ones that students designed. Some of them are Christmas themed Star Wars cookie cutters. These are absolutely one of a kind. So it's going to be kind of fun. We've got Mandalorians with Santa hats and festive Death Stars.
Oh, nice! It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So these, I'd be down for that, John. We could decorate some of these and mail them off. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to mail cookies without getting them all totally destroyed.
We'll have to figure this out. We'll put
we'll put our heads together.
I'm going to be bouncing around with some of the questions. You guys have got a lot of questions. Keep those coming because we'll hit pretty much all of them because we're going to bounce through quickly. Someone has.
You are optimistic, John. I like the way you think. We might want to write some of these down for a future show.
Yeah, I've got them all. They're all copied down. One person mentioned that I remember names. I'm sorry, I've just been copying and pasting here. That they're using 12-inch powered speakers for ceremonies, and they're wondering if a 10-inch powered speaker, probably from the same family, we'll call it, because we can visualize the any number of our Electro Voice or what have you. But could a 10-inch work well enough for a ceremony to go with a little bit smaller cabinet?
Absolutely. It's going to be voiced really well for vocals, and that's the primary. I mean, really, that's the bulk of a ceremony is vocals. Certainly, anything that's instrumental, is going to be there. I mean, if you want rich, deep tones, from some of the musical content, you might want to sub anyway. Although it's probably not really necessary for most ceremonies, but I'm just saying that's a personal preference thing. Basically, what I'm saying is if a 12 will work, a 10 will probably work just fine. Certainly for vocal reproduction. Absolutely.
So there you are. For the vehicle, that would be a great option. Let's see. I think actually Reggie gave this one. What would be a good beginning DMX controller for someone who's just beginning in doing DMX controlled lighting?
Well, as counterintuitive as this might sound, I really don't like the small, inexpensive hardware controllers because they're also very difficult to use in terms of achieving any real control. I would say a software package, and I'm not going to pick favorites because there's a lot of good ones out there, but some of these software packages are not very expensive in the grand scheme of things, but they're certainly going to make up for what cost difference there is with ease of use. You can point and click to things rather than having to work in a really number-based world, where you're trying to figure out channels and addresses and values of channels and fixture numbers and that sort of thing can get really aggravating with those hardware controllers. They're also much more powerful. They allow you to group fixtures together and control things, with a point and click intuitive mentality. So I'm not going to say any software-based controller because there's a few maybe I wouldn't use, but the great thing about those is a lot of them can be downloaded and tried out, at least in a virtual sense, for free. I'm more than happy to talk individually with anybody privately that has questions about my preferences and software I would guide you to. And of course, there's a community out there. You can talk to each other and choose a preference. But I'm just going to say software.
And someone had a follow-up question talking about other DMX apps that you had heard of that are out there in the world, and they were wondering what are some of those. So,
oh golly, that's a long list.
So the best for that particular one might be to get more one-on-one about.
I think so.
About
yeah,
that.
I mean, I've got my favorites, and people are creatures of habit. I don't really want to. I just don't want to say, a couple that are my favorites and then not do a service to all the others out there. I think if I had some time to really sit and think and discuss some of the options that are out there, I could be probably more fair to the viewer because obviously I'm gonna lean towards the ones that I'm comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Let's jump up here. And this is actually somebody I didn't see this particular question here. I saw a version of this somewhere else where they were talking about redoing their power to their system. I think it started because of Rick, who was on with us just before. Rick did a video talking about how much power he needs coming through his cords and which cords are the right cords and da. So I think that gets people thinking, and they're wondering about what should they be using for cords and power conditioning and different distribution, for a mobile DJ. What would you recommend?
Well, great question. First and foremost, and that's about 2 hours of answers that just came to my mind here, so I'll try to keep this short. First and foremost, I really like rubber jacketed cords as opposed to thermoplastic cords. Thermoplastic is kind of like this sort of stuff, the shiny plasticky stuff you typically get from manufacturers.
Yeah.
And they're okay, but I like rubber cords. They're softer. They have a more flexible jacket. They're going to last basically forever. I knew I had an example here. I have just an awesome collection of junk around me today. When we do these Q&A shows, I just try to surround myself with stuff. Where you can see a rubber jacket's a little more, matte and flexible. And this one actually is a power cord. It's one of our hybrid cables, which is power and signal. But anyway, this is actually one of the early prototypes, not our final version. But I would say rubber. And as far as conductor size for power cords, bigger is better. It's simple, at least when we're talking about power. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go get the biggest conductors you can find. I am kind of at the point where I just say, I'm going to buy 12 gauge and just be done with it. Then I know that every cord I grab is a 12 gauge. But you could maybe get by with a 14 or something, for, or even a 16, maybe for lighter loads. It really depends on the total amperage draw and the length. And I've put together a chart that, again, I can share with you privately, where basically if you're running this many amps at this many feet, you need this gauge cord. And it's certainly not the exhaustive end-all resource, but I basically put it together to simplify the answering those questions and give you some kind of a basic guide.
Sure.
So that gets the power to the system. And then as far as power distribution and power conditioning go, those are really two very fundamentally different things. Power distribution takes the power and just as the name says, it distributes it. So maybe it's something like, something like this, which I'm not a big fan of, and I'll talk about why in a second. But that is an example of a power distributor. Power comes in and it distributes it out to multiple outlets. Another example would be something like this. So here we've got one cord that comes in, and then we've got a bunch of outlets going out. Okay, so there's our power distribution. And in fact, this one even says power distribution, which is good because I would not call this a power conditioner. When you talk about power conditioning, we're talking about actually improving the power. And we've done some great shows on power conditioning recently. Chris and I did one when you were busy doing something awesome. I don't know. Anyway, and, where we demonstrated noise removal and some of those things, transient voltage suppression, some of the things that power conditioners do to improve the power that our system is using. This device here, I think I've got it where I can open it. If we look at the inside, you can see there really isn't anything going on in there.
It just,
it's largely empty, and that's okay because as a power distributor, that's all it needs to do is distribute the power. But it is not conditioning anything. It's not improving the power. Whereas, let's take a look at a power conditioner. And this one says it is a power conditioner. Now this one's a much smaller one. This one would fit underneath like a DJ controller or something. And all the ins and outs are on one side. So we've got our power in, we've got a switch, and we've got two outlets. But this one has substantially more stuff going on inside.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously it's going to do a lot more. And in fact, we demonstrated that in that show with Chris, and I think another show you and I've done where we actually demonstrate the difference in terms of noise removal. And, this isn't, it isn't science fiction. This is science fact. This is just physics. So anyway, that would be the difference in terms of power distribution versus power conditioning. By the way, we had a pretty rockin' Black Friday sale on these, and I think we might have some left. So just saying.
I missed
contact
that.
me or your favorite NLFX person and just say, Ben said you might have some, and let's see what we can do for you.
Ben said.
I want to show you this thing again and tell you why I'm not a big fan of these, because sometimes people call these surge suppressors and, that sort of thing and blah, 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 blah. Some people even call these power conditioners. Well, they're not. There is literally nothing in there but a switch. And a switch is not a power conditioner, just in case you were wondering. So, literally, we can see this does nothing except take the power in and then distribute it to the outlets here. So, not a power conditioner.
Not going to get you where you want to go.
A power distributor. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, as long as you're using it for the right thing. So.
Excellent. Okay.
I feel like a duck in a shooting gallery here. The questions just coming.
No,
I like
good.
it. I'm like, come on, let's
do it.
Let's do it.
They've been kind of holding on here, so we're good for a bit. Cables. We'll stick with cables. For managing the cables, would you recommend Velcro, or would you recommend using something that's like a shoelace type tie to manage your cables and keep them contained?
It's your cable. Both good. Uncoated cotton tie line with a shoelace tie, great. Velcro, great. Bongo ties, great. Just, wrap your cable over under 12 to 16 inch coil. Treat them nice. And what you use to finish off your coil, it's up to you, man. It's all good.
And then once they're all wrapped up, you can take them out and you can drive a tank over them in a parade, and they'll still... we are, of course, the parade did not destroy our Platinum Series cable, not even by a long shot, didn't even damage it. That is remarkable. So we are currently in talks with the U.S. Army about trying to line up some kind of a demo where they can drive tracked vehicles over the cable. And they said, well, do you want to do it on dirt? Do you want to do it on pavement? We're like, let's do it all. So I don't know what they're going to let us do. Obviously we want to be sensitive of the more important things the Army has to do, like,
defend democracy.
Yeah, save the world, but yeah.
But in their spare time, I said, hey, if you're driving these tanks around anyway, you mind if we just put a cable in the way? And I'll tell you what, I got a pretty interesting look from the sergeant I was talking to. He kind of said, you want to
What?
You want to what? I said, no, I just want to put my cable in the way and let your tank run over it. He said, okay, I think we could do that.
We're stuck, sir. We can't get over this cable. Oh, well, that's the platinum version of the NLFX cable.
I don't think that's going to stop a main battle tank or even
that'd be a
small
great commercial.
mechanized infantry vehicle. But I did ask if we could also have them shoot like an anti-armor round at one of our cables.
Oh,
now, I know, and you know, we both know the cable is going to get blown to smithereens. I mean, it's going to be obliterated, but still, that'd be really cool. I mean, you know, I'm willing to sacrifice a cable just to say we shot a tank round at it, you know? Seems to me that request was probably denied. They didn't say so, but I'm pretty sure that one went nowhere.
Was it shot down?
It just wasn't really even acknowledged, I think. You know, they're very polite. The people that I'm talking to have just been really outstanding, excellent representatives of our armed forces. They've been very polite with my crazy requests. They haven't said officially yes to anything yet, though. So stay tuned, and we'll see if we get the drive tanks over our cables.
That'll be fun. Okay, we got to keep going here. Go-to vocal microphone. If you had to go and choose one vocal mic, what would you recommend? Or maybe a couple of different options that are.
Yeah, I think I would say a couple. You know, Sennheiser 865. You know, and of course I'm keeping this sort of. I mean, you know, you could say, you know, you could pick a KSM or something, and you know, money being no object. But I'm gonna say pragmatic, like kind of an everyday thing that I would use, and I think is reasonable for the people watching this show. 865, 835 is great. Beta 87. I'd be really comfortable using any of those. You know, even Beta 58, it's a dynamic. You know, I think just depends on who I'm miking, how they sing or talk, or what I'm doing. You know, if I'm doing you know, lectern type work or whatever, then I'd probably go with certainly a condenser of some kind. Just depends. You know, EV-ND76 dynamite mic. I feel embarrassed that I forget to mention it all the time. It just doesn't get the popularity that some of the other ones do. It hasn't been around as long, but it's the newer version of the ND767, and that's a great sounding mic.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, any of those really depends. Just depends if you want dynamic or condenser. You know, pros and cons to each, right? So
right. Yeah, a couple of them are mentioning they have got the 835, which you mentioned as one of the options.
Oh, a killer! I love that thing. You know, I mean, that is probably, I'll say that is one of my favorite dynamic mics, without a doubt.
Somebody was asking a question about the Evolve 50s versus the Evox. You did a shootout comparison of those. Yep. Can you give us a little rundown? Because they were asking. Basically, they're talking.
My answer is going to be disappointingly diplomatic. Watch the video. I think we were very fair in our test and our desire to represent all the products that were tested equally. I think proof in the pudding is that all three of the manufacturers whose product appeared in the video all shared the video and all claimed victory. So,
okay.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing, tweets from FBT in Italy saying, check out this video. And I'm like, well, okay. But I think you should watch it. I think you should draw your own conclusions. The scientific data is sound. And if you have questions and you want to talk to me personally, we should do that privately. Mm-hmm. Sound is a subjective thing. The science is not. Again, I think the facts that were laid out were done so very fairly, and it gives you a chance to really evaluate each system on its own merits and decide which is the right system for you.
Good. And I think you had that on your YouTube channel, didn't you, or was it on Facebook?
It's it's on the NLFX YouTube channel.
Okay. So if you pop out to the NLFX Pro YouTube channel, you should be able to find it there.
Yep, youtube.com/NLFX Pro.
Excellent. Custom URLs are so nice.
And we're working on getting some more videos up there too. So, subscribe to the channel and get notification. We got some new product reviews and things. We're trying to just answer people's questions in that form. We're not going to make a ton of them, but just give it a subscribe if you don't mind.
Let's continue. We've got, we're doing pretty well here. We've still got quite a few questions, but we're moving along well.
My poor brain.
How can a person get a better signal with a wireless microphone system where we're trying to reach more and not have dropouts in a room?
Well, that can be an exceptionally complicated question because there's a lot of variables here. So let me try to hit a few highlights. One, have a good wireless system. That's a big start. If you have a good radio, and it comes down to a lot of things, how susceptible they are to noise. Ultimately it's a carrier to noise ratio. How much tunable bandwidth you have, how much flexibility within that bandwidth to tune you have, and all those kinds of things. So it can be an incredibly complex question. You also want to make sure that you're not tuning where there's other interference. And so there again, having good frequency bands to choose from, having something that's going to give you options in your area is really important. Let's just assume that all those things are out of the equation. Then I would say it comes down to two really critically important things. Assuming that your frequency is clear and all that is taken care of, then it's going to come down to antenna etiquette. Having good line of sight between your antennas, your transmitting antenna, which is part of the handheld or it's on the body pack. Many systems also turn the cable from a body pack into an antenna as well. So the lav mic becomes part of an antenna. So line of sight between that and your receive antenna, and then also improving your receive antenna on your receiving unit. And if you have multiple receivers, then maybe some type of antenna combining so that you don't have a farm of antennas. Don't be an antenna farmer. Okay. Here's some examples of ways we could upgrade our antennas. Most of our receivers come with like the little, it's about that big. If it's 500 megahertz or so, quarter wave monopoles. We could upgrade that to something like this as a collinear antenna. Not very common and kind of fragile, so we'll just say that's not really an option. Here's something a little bit more DJ friendly, a little bit more robust and tough. This is a half wave, and you can see how much longer it is.
Sure.
These antennas are tuned, by the way, to a specific frequency. So you do want these to be correct for your receiver. You don't want to just go grab because inside there's an actual antenna inside the rubber housing here. And the length of which is going to be determined by the frequency of the system you're tuning. So half wave. And then another benefit of half waves too is you don't have to have them actually attached to the chassis. Those you could mount remotely. They don't require a ground plane like a quarter wave. And we've covered that, I think, in a previous show. But in the interest of moving on, I will. My personal favorite and kind of the I don't leave with home without it anymore would be a log periodic. So something like this, shark fin, bat wing, you name it. If you look here, we can see the texture. We can see these lines.
Yeah.
This is an array of antennas, a log periodic array. And this is a directional antenna. We point the small part of the fin towards our transmitting mic. It is going to give us more gain. It's sort of like a reflector for light. It's going to focus that energy that in this case it's receiving. It's going to focus the receiving pattern in that direction. And we're going to get more of what we want and less of what we don't. Plus, you mount these on a standard mic stand, put them up in the air, and now you can get over bodies and heads and substantially improve your reception quality. Transmit power is another thing, but I don't usually bring that up because pumping out more transmit power can also make your life worse. Sometimes we can have multipath interference where that transmit power is bouncing around the room, and now we're interfering with ourselves. So sometimes less transmit power is better. And so that's why I sort of leave that out of the equation. So,
I guess I didn't even think about that idea of
it. Wireless can be complex, and I feel bad because I like wireless and I do all kinds of wireless stuff, and it seems exceptionally likely I'll be working at the college football championship again this year. try as I will to get out of it. But, it's not that bad, when you can get these things in front of you. But I understand that most people don't want to be physics professors. They just want they just want their darn microphone to work. And that's why I'm here to help, I think, is part of that. Let's, figure these things out with good frequencies, good frequency management, good antenna etiquette. And we're off to the races. In most cases, it works pretty well. You don't have to be an RF expert to use a couple of channels of wireless reliably.
I had a couple of questions on the fin. Craig was asking if you need to have one fin per wireless microphone signal, or if you can combine multiple microphones under one fin.
Most wireless mic receivers actually use two antennas, so I would recommend 2 fins per wireless mic receiver. Now, if you had 2 receivers, now we're talking about 4 fins. If you had 3 receivers, now we're talking about 6 fins, and we've passed into the world of crazy. Mm-hmm. That's where we get into those antenna combiners, where I could take upwards of 4 receivers and run them on a single pair of fins. So big benefit there to using an antenna combiner, so that, again, I don't have a forest of antennas now. So short answer, 2 antennas per system that uses like a true diversity or an antenna diversity system. And if you have more, then you would need more potentially.
Robin asked if that fin is a fractal antenna. Does that make sense? I don't know. Fractal. Yeah, fractal.
I know Robin was, I believe, was in the Air Force. So she's probably smarter than me. It's an array. I'll say that. It's a log periodic array, an LPA or LPDA, a log periodic directional array. So not sure how to answer that either. You win.
Okay. Yeah. Robin, and for those of you who don't know, Robin has an incredible repair background when it comes to electronics and hands-on.
Was that right? Was it Air Force? You can see the chat. I can't see it. Is it?
She hasn't said anything yet. We'll have to. Yeah, Robin, I'm sure will pop in and say that. But yeah, she knows a lot more technical stuff than I do by far. It's like, oh wow, that's really cool.
I stick to to quote TLC, the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to, I think. So
okay, so yeah, Robin will pop that up there and we got to keep going here. So the next question. People are really concerned about this next question, so we need to make sure we hit this one before the end. Talking about powering down a 1.21 gigawatt flux capacitor down to 500 watts. How can we do this? And then, when are we going to be ready to run this device off a banana peel?
I like how seriously you read that question. I like how you said that with such a straight face.
We're wondering.
And how you and you're keeping a straight face now. Kudos to you. So, here's my answer. You don't want to power down a flux capacitor from 1.21 gigawatts to 500 watts. But wattage is a measure of electrical work. So to calculate for wattage, you would take your voltage times your amperage times your power factor, because wattage is a measure of real power, not apparent power, which is volt amperes. So in this case, when you have a factor of amperage and wattage, amperage and voltage, and of course our power factor, then we could determine our wattage. But changing the load of that would be a complicated question. And I'm not going to answer it because it wouldn't work. You need 1.21 gigawatts. That's how a flux capacitor works. So I can't give you advice that would cause you to be stuck in some millennia. That's bad advice.
That is true.
What I will tell you is I don't really know how much energy we get out of a banana peel in a Mr. Fusion, but I do know that there are a lot of different ways we can generate 1.21 gigawatts. For example, we'll do some math here real quick. It would be approximately 60% of the output of the Hoover Dam. would take about 484 wind turbines. You could do it with one nuclear power plant. It would take you about, so you carry the two, it would take you about 8 billion hamster wheels. Only 8 million solar panels, though, or of course, one lightning bolt. But you already knew that. So
yeah, exactly.
Next question.
Okay. Oops, I did that wrong here. I'm marking things.
Thanks to BuzzFeed for those calculations, by the way.
Can you change out the caps on a Sennheiser the E835?
Absolutely. Yeah, I own that same mic, the wireless. We're talking about the wireless version, right?
I'm guessing so. I think that's what they're...
Yeah, on the wired version, no. An 835 is an 835, but on the wireless systems, you can take the 835 off and put another capsule on, many other capsules.
Okay.
So, for example, I mentioned earlier the 835 and the 865. I have both capsules in my wireless rack. And so I just change depending on what I want to use at that time. Take the 835 off, put the 865 on, vice versa.
Excellent. Your favorite stage monitor?
Oof.
Give us a couple of examples of some stage monitors that you would recommend.
You know what? I'm going to go coy. I'm going to say in-ear monitors.
Oh, see, there's a little bit different. Give us why would you feel more comfortable with in-ear monitors or you're getting better results with that?
Less stage wash. I have less to worry about. It's going to allow for more detailed and more isolated mixes for my musicians. I don't have to worry about picking up monitors in other mics. I don't have to worry about monitors interfering with each other, that sort of thing. I mean, there's some amazing monitors out there, honestly. The XW series from Evie. There's some really great ones from Meyer and L Acoustic. Some coaxial ones. I'm not even going to get into it. I think I guess it depends on what you want to spend too. But I really like in-ears because of the flexibility they give. Musicians can have stereo mixes. I have less noise on my stage. But there are some considerations you have to think about when you send people out with ears. It's not something I would do for the first time with somebody. There's a comfort level with ears because they do isolate you so much. They're allowing these musicians to protect their hearing by not having a wedge blasting away over whatever the house sound is. But at the same time, they do isolate you from things around you. So we set up additional talkback microphones many times so the musicians can talk to each other. We'll maybe put some crowd mics and things so the musicians can at least feel the crowd.
Oh.
And sometimes we still put up wedges because we want them to have some of that feeling on the stage or side fills. So it doesn't mean we entirely get rid of wedges altogether. So.
I guess
One thing I really do hate, though, is when musicians pop one ear out to hear a wedge, because at that point, it's kind of like when you're talking on the phone and somebody's talking in your other ear. They'll just keep turning things up, and ultimately they're damaging their hearing and they're making my life a lot harder. So I am also blissfully happy to report that the vast majority of my career, I have been at front of house, not monitor world. I've mixed monitors because I had to.
Sure, not because it was.
It's not the first place I'd go. I got to feed my family. I'll do it, but that is they are kind of the whipping boy of the pro audio world. I think sometimes so tough spot to be.
Okay, so.
I remember a comment a while back where somebody posted on Facebook. They said, "I like mixing monitors. You don't have to do anything." And I said, "You're doing it wrong."
I've only done it a little bit.
Doing it wrong.
Yeah, I've only done a little bit, and it's like all five wanted a different mix, and it's like I've only got 4 auxiliary channels to send you a mix. One of you are going to have to pay.
Not even that. I mean, I've mixed upwards of 36 monitor outputs, by the time you start factoring side fills and wedges and stereo ears and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not even that you have all these different mixes going on simultaneously, but they want them changed from song to song.
Oh, boy.
And so that's where a powerful console with snapshots and that sort of thing can really help you. But depending on the band, mixing monitors can be, you see the guy end the night mopping his forehead, that's not the way for every band, but I'm just saying it's not a set it and forget it in most cases. Certainly not at the pro touring world.
I got a couple more minutes here. Let's talk audio
Thank
delay.
goodness.
Audio delay. When we were introduced to this a little bit in the speaker line when ETX came out and they had that ability to do different things, and others have got that same capability. But why is that important when you get into a larger room?
I missed the first part of the question, I think.
The audio delay, talking about audio delay and
yeah.
such because of sound. We've talked in the past about sound travel and the speed of sound, but why in a larger room? Because sound still travels pretty fast. I wouldn't think it would be that big of a thing.
No, it's pretty slow, actually. It's about 1,128 feet per second at room temperature, and it does change with humidity and temperature. But, if you work that out into miles per hour, it's somewhere in the 700s, I think, or whatever. I mean, that sounds fast, but in the real world, it's not. 1,128 feet per second is actually pretty slow, such that we use this all the time when measuring lightning, which travels at 186,000 miles per second, or 300 million meters per second. So exponentially faster. And that's how we can time how far away, lightning strike is, because we see the flash much faster than we hear the thunder. And the time differential helps us figure that out. Well, in sound, that can be a problem because we see things happen with our eyes. We see people's lips move, that sort of thing. And if the sound travel doesn't align with that, that can be a problem. Now, that wasn't the question, because you can't fix that. You can't speed sound up. The other problem you can have with sound is when you have a really long room, that as the sound tapers off with distance and we need to add more sound and we put another speaker, electricity also travels about the speed of light. So that electrical signal is going to get to that speaker and it's going to reproduce it at essentially the same time as the furthest speaker away. However, the sound traveling from that speaker is going to arrive much later. And so now we have a staggered arrival time of the sound. We're hearing that, twice, like 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, sure. And worse as the distance increases. And that can be a really big problem, particularly with high energy sound, with fast musical content, where now it just turns into complete mush. If I'm counting single syllables, like, numbers, you could say, okay, well, it was one with an echo, but when that becomes music, it becomes just absolute mush. So I feel like I sort of got off on a tangent here.
No, you're doing well. You're explaining the situation.
Okay, good. I'm just sort of making sense to you. Thank goodness.
Yeah, you are.
So we got the lightning and the thunder and everything else in here.
I'm still wondering when the banana peel is going to be there, but okay, keep going.
I already covered the Mr. Fusion. So anyway, basically what we need to do is delay the closest speaker to allow the sound from the furthest speaker time to arrive. So we got our two speakers here. Okay. This one's closer to you and this one's further away. So I need this one to wait and say, wait until this sound gets here. And now we go together. And we can calculate that delay very easily now. Because a lot of these boxes allow you to just put it in feet or meters. Mm-hmm. You don't have to understand that it's approximately 0.89 milliseconds per foot. You can simply say it's 130 feet and the box will make that calculation for you. And then, of course, you can listen and say, well, that sounds pretty good to me. Or you can make a minor adjustment if you want. But if you don't have that ability, you can just do that math and you can use round numbers. 0.89 is where I like to go. Some people go 0.9. Some people even just say, well, it's a millisecond a foot. That drives me crazy because you're off by quite a ways, but it's sure better than it was. Mm-hmm. So, close counts, I guess, or you could just look it up online, I suppose, Google it or whatever. But that's why we have to delay. That's why it's so important, because otherwise we just get that, I call it state fair effect of kind of unintelligible mush with sound arriving at different times from multiple sources.
Would that contribute to something I've heard people refer to as hearing fatigue? Would that
it certainly isn't going to help because your brain is trying to make sense of that sound. So I don't think that's, the clinical definition of hearing fatigue. They're talking there more about, I think frequencies and things that really irritate and aggravate your brain. But I would say, and maybe I'm wrong on that, maybe that would be part of hearing fatigue, because it certainly would cause your brain to get tired of trying to figure that out.
Sure.
Our brains are working all the time to try to make sense of the things around us in the world. And that's why if somebody says something to you and it doesn't make sense to you. And a few minutes later you say, oh, I understand now what they said. You didn't get to hear it again. Your brain was just working on that. Mm-hmm. And it kind of filtered through that and said, oh, I think they said this, right? And it probably happened to everybody. Well, if your brain's trying to do that with everything that's happening constantly as it's happening, that would be exhausting and it wouldn't be a good listening experience.
So if a person, Brolance just asked,
I like my nail polish, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to see you kind of bunked a finger there.
I did. Yeah, that was,
this can be done for like some speakers that have it built in. And if you don't have it built in, how would you be able to achieve a delay with that additional speaker?
There are outboard delays you can buy. Now again, to delay something that long, like we talked about earlier, that takes some horsepower. You need some DSP processing power, but there are devices that, outboard DSPs that have delay. There are some that are just a delay. And then there are others that are multifunction DSPs where you can go in and calculate delay. You can also do compression and EQ and all those sorts of things. Other times, some digital mixing consoles have delay on the output. So you can adjust that delay right from the output on the mixing board. And I'll tell you what, we recently did a show where I have that ability. It was on a Digico console, which is a very nice console, absolutely wonderful, beautiful pro touring desk. But it was almost easier for our guys just to go to the ETXs we were using as delay fills, and they just did it there. And I thought, I don't even need to mess with this in the desk. It's kind of nice. Okay. We've
got to wrap up.
Whew, thank goodness.
And we still have a couple of this one's going to be a quick, we'll just throw this one in. When you buy a lav mic, wireless lav system, they come with a lav microphone included. You can upgrade to a replacement, or I should say you can buy an additional higher end lav than what comes with most of those kits.
Absolutely. Companies like Countryman, DPA, even probably the mic manufacturers make a better lav. Many times the ones that come packaged with the system are, they're okay. They're decent. Now, if you bought a $300 lav system, remember you're getting a radio and a microphone for that. So probably both of them are, lower grade. That's just how they make it work, and it might be good enough for you. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying you have to understand it's probably not just a lower quality radio, but also probably a lower quality mic than, the $600 option or whatever, and so on and so forth. You can easily spend a couple $1,000s just on the lav mic itself.
Wow.
Yeah. So, obviously there's a point of diminishing returns and it doesn't make any sense. And, you have to kind of find balance and get something that works for you without, mortgaging the farm to buy it. But absolutely, Countryman and DPA both make some really good lav mics, and there's others too. They're certainly not the only ones. And this, again, I think gets into a bit of an individual discussion to say, well, what do you want to do? Why do you want to upgrade? What are your challenges with what you have? And sort of, look for the right solution for somebody individually, I think.
Sure. Ben, thank you much for your time. We've got actually a couple more questions that came in. I think we're going to dig.
I love our viewers, John.
Yeah,
I love our viewers.
Great tonight. Wow.
You all are. You have such curious minds, and you want to be better. You're excellent ambassadors for our industry. You're raising the bar, all of you. So, thank you for all the questions. It's when we do these Q&A nights, it's a little bit, like I said, like being a duck in a shooting gallery. It's sort of, your brain is jumping from, lighting to wireless to, and whatever, but I'm attention deficit, so I roll. Well, I just wanted to thank our viewers for all the great questions.
Yeah, we went through 20 questions.